Okay, Gordon, tell me the postscript to that previous discussion that we had on Philip Hammond.
Michael Jean Hinze is the money bunger to the Tory party, and once he had them in his mitts by bunging money to everybody and anybody. Once you start throwing money like that, that's how you get knighthoods.
So yep. He's Sir Michael Hinze now?
Yeah.
Okay.
His name is Michael Jean Hinze, G-E-N-E.
Yeah. And he's a director of the linkage to the Royals. Could you just repeat that for me, because I'm making a separate video now?
Yeah, it's the Prince's Foundation, one of the Prince's Foundations, and they operate out of the Duchy of Cornwall office, the old rectory in Bath, Newton, in Bath. That's right, in Michael's backyard.
Yeah. Have you fished at Blagden?
Pardon?
Have you fished at Blagden?
No.
Beautiful, beautiful place. Beautiful scenery, and but very close to Bristol.
Oh yeah. Anyway, he's also a director of the International Thermal Systems Limited and the Old Vic Endowment Trust. And
that's Victoria Endowment Trust.
Yeah.
Victoria.
The Old Vic is a theatre.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah. So he's in the art sector as well.
Don't divert to your supposition. Now,
is that your phone or mine?
Not mine.
Can I just pick up the phone? John, are you still listening? Maybe he can't hear us, but we can hear him. Anyway, carry on, Gordon.
Anyway, in the Institute of Economic Affairs, the company, one of the directors was Malcolm Hugh Dees McAlpine, and that's obviously he was born in 1917.
Malcolm Hugh Dees, D-E-E-S?
Yeah.
And that is Lord McAlpine of the nudist beach and the paedophilic art gallery fame.
Well,
but also chief
or his father or his brother.
But chief fundraiser for the Conservatives for a decade and a half, maybe?
Yeah, and he was the treasurer for the Conservative Party when that 17.8 million came in, which Margaret Beckett and Lord Doug Hoyle questioned in Hansard, June the 22nd, 1993, starting from column 197.
And the precipitant for our discussion of the monarchy, the Duchy of Cornwall, the involvement of the Tory chief fundraiser McAlpine, was our question to you on Philip Hammond. Could you just briefly explain the link again in a couple of sentences?
Well, Philip Hammond has taken the place of what's his name?
William Hague.
Yeah, William Hague. And he's dirty. Philip Hammond is dirty. And he's dirty because if you check his history as I know it, which is in the forensic documents, that he was a director of a Ponzi scam, a fake oil and gas company.
What's the identifier for them? What was the corporate?
No, I'll identify it in the email, which you will get a copy of.
Oh, you teaser, you.
I know.
Okay, so is it into virtual oil and gas en masse, or just an occasional?
Once he started taking a salary for a fake oil and gas company, he was susceptible for obeying the orders of the business people who control the governments. And that's what it's all about. It's that, like David Cameron...
And in that low-life sector, are the Royals actually registered as directors?
Not in that particular company that he was a director of.
Right.
However, it links into all the other ones, which are in Pandora's box number 3, of which I make accusations under a pseudonym of Akrotiri, which was one of the military bases that I served in Cyprus at 103 MU, maintenance unit.
And I can confirm through links to my old mates in the pharmaceutical industry, like David Steele's contacts at the Wellcome Trust, that 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 man Ogilvy that you revealed as a friend and business colleague of the royal family, I can confirm that through the Ogilvy network, the royals are also profiteering from the pharma industries all across the world. And you know about the links of Andrea Davidson's people to AstraZeneca, or boyfriends at AstraZeneca. All the companies that I thought had been dissolved in the early 1990s are still trading. They're at the, they're in the Ponzi shelves with the Glaxo Group. The people that became the Vice Chancellor at Imperial College were the chairman and directors and CEOs of those massive corporations, and that's how they get interlocked with the Intel people. The new boss at Imperial College is Miss Manningham-Buller.
Yeah.
She's now sacking decent scientists who work on healthcare, and she's replacing them with Intel security experts.
Well, that's the same as
professorships in Intel, and you're telling us with every second breath that the Intel agencies, including Mossad, run all of the laundering exercises on behalf of our august government out of addresses.
They operate, the government, it can be traced forensically to these boiler rooms in Finchley Road or 50 Lothian Road or 1 Mitchell Lane in Bristol, 1 America Square. All these addresses, when you check the companies that run in and out of those addresses, if you were to do a forensic audit on their actual product to find out, and if somebody went to some of these exotic far-off destinations where these people are purported to be drilling for oil, you would find that there's nothing there, because these companies silt money out of the parental company by saying and claiming that their costs are absorbed by drilling, which is the major exploration cost. But in fact, the realities are that these companies are not doing any drilling. This is how they launder the money out of the parental company into subsidiaries that they are also directors of, or part of the network which is aiding and assisting and abetting the laundering of cash out of the parental company to steal it. And that's what it's all about. It's nothing to do
with the
with
NHS fraud involving the Ogilvies and the people that were my former bosses in the healthcare sector and in the pharmaceutical industry. The tragedy of that is that the fraud there is perpetrated 2 or 3 times against the people. The people pay taxes to get a free healthcare system up here in Scotland, but the people who are given the medication are over-medicated because the medical people across Britain get up to 40% of their salary for giving too many drugs, prescribing by volume. It's called polypharmacy, and it dismembers the health of the elderly, but the doctors get a massive proportion of their pay to do that. They're quite ashamed of it. I've published the evidence for that on the website earlier this week, so that I cannot be sectioned by my local doctors. There was a real threat of that, but I believe that I've put that down now by exposing all of the facts behind the criminal asset stripping of the NHS. So when the pharma people negotiate that deal with the commissioners are making a fortune, the pharma companies are making a fortune. They're selling products that the patients do not need through doctors that desperately have become used to getting that massive hike in their salary, and they are then prepared to issue the drugs to the patient at the nation's cost. And the result of that is that granny and grandpa get institutionalised, and they have to pay £600 a month for a private care home that used to be owned by the state in its entirety. And I've learned that local doctors join the boards of those care homes and the charitable sectors, and you know all about the charitable sector in this area.
That's right.
Yeah, every one of those things is a scam at the public's expense. So I just wanted you to know that the links to the monarchy that you're describing here through the virtual oil and gas sector is shared by links to the monarchy through the Ogilvy network and the elite network of directors, university chancellors and vice chancellors, educated people that should know better, who are now stealing from their children in the form of university students. They're sacking university academics for lack of funds, which themselves should be given up by democracy. Like when I was educated, the whole of public sector life should be liberally funded by money that is issued by democracy, but instead it's in private hands, aka the hub of that wheel that we talk about on a daily basis, the monarchy, the Prime Minister, the President, the diplomats, the university leaders, all of the people who are heads of society. You mentioned Boris Johnson. Yeah,
Yep.
You've mentioned Nick Clegg's wife and the assassinations that keep the whole thing ticking along if anybody gets anything out of line. And it is just ruthless. And thank you for revealing Philip Hammond's role as a link to Sir Michael Hinze and a link to the monarchy, and the fact that we're back at the centre of that hub. And it's, you know, the guys that work in the Rotary Club as minor figures here, they think they're really clever. They get to talk to, you know, the Duke and the Duchess who's in the cabal, and they get to shake hands with them. And if they're really lucky, they'll get to be the president of the Probus Club, and they'll get to wear a chain like Boris Johnson does.
Yeah.
And that is them dedicating their life to dismembering society. But it's only now that ordinary people are beginning to talk about those as criminal interventions and dismembering society and its capability that they're now becoming embarrassed by that role. But I'm really pleased that you're prepared to share it with us in language that every citizen across the UK can understand and relate to. I'll post that video alongside the one we made earlier, which was much deeper and revealed the arms trading scandals of Liam Fox, Adam Verity, and all of the people that are linked into those Sri Lankan frauds. In the follow-up profiteering campaigns, the very first campaign abroad that David Cameron engaged in was on a weapons sales trip to the Middle East. I believe that was in 2010 or in the very early months of 2011. He went with all of the arms delegations that used to follow in the form of Verity to Saudi and to all the usual suspects in the Arabic world that are used as tools, as launderers, and you know, they are vents for the profiteering, but the masterminds behind it are largely in the G8 countries. And what they're doing to Russia and Ukraine, because of the, you know, the, what did you say that Hinze was in, the policy unit? The political policy unit, what was it called?
It was,
I thought, Institute for Economic Affairs.
yeah.
Yeah. So that's equivalent.
Just check the directors of that. But what I'd like to give you an insight in is, please, just recover Pandora's Box Part 3 and then go to the 4 comments. And the comments are in connection to a referral by a guy called Jeremy Asher. It's Jeremy Benjamin Asher, actually, who was a director of Tower Resources. Now, the interconnection is that this Jeremy Asher was one of the founding members of Consort Resources. Did you get that?
Yeah.
Consort Resources. And Consort Resources, one of the directors was, come on,
Henry Kissinger, Lord Patton. They're on the Future of Russia Foundation.
Philip Hammond.
Ah. And Consort Resources, what is its role in life?
Well, Consort Resources is is nothing more than a Ponzi scam, or it was then, a Ponzi scam, oil and gas company. And so once he became involved in that, in taking a bung of, I don't know much, 70, 80,000 pound a year, he was part of this network who have been operating thousands of fake virtual oil, gas and mining companies, because it was an interlock to a company called Caledonia Oil and Gas Limited. And it was, there were multiple Consort Resources subsidiaries, and this is why I say, as soon as you mentioned Philip Hammond, I had to go and get my dossiers on the interlocks with Jeremy Asher and Peter Blakely and all these con artists that operated Jupiter Petroleum, Neptune Petroleum, Saturn Petroleum, Star Petroleum. Don't you get they're extracting the...
Yeah, I can see it, and when you relate that to other, to public sector funded initiatives in the country, which are also being, the budget for the NHS is tumbling downwards as they begin to privatise everything within it, and they begin to profit, well, they've long been profiteering from the drugs issues, and it just needs to be outed. And the people that are behind it as deliberate profiteers need to be exposed.
These are not profiteers, George. These are thieves. These are thieves, fraudsters, money launderers, tax evaders. They're just down and out scum. But because they get a politician involved to give it a veneer of respectability, where he then becomes blackmail material, because once they've taken the money, that's easy. Then they're just puppets. They're puppets for the same syndicate that operate out of 788, 790 Finchley Road, 50 Lothian Road. The people that command overall control of hubs, of boiler rooms. That's the problem, is that nobody looks and nobody asks the right questions when it comes to £1 billion loss to banks like RBS, Barclays, Lloyds. Nobody asked the right questions of where did the money go, name the companies and name the directors of those companies that were given money from the banks, which was high risk, no return on high risk investments, which lost the banks trillions, which was then written off in toxic debt. The Bank of England just tops it up rather than to see the little private investor or bank client go under, to lose their money.
Well, I mean, what we were talking about yesterday, and I failed to get you last evening to confirm
your... I was out last evening.
But what we were talking about yesterday was the role of Zoe Billingham, who's this police spokesman for Her Majesty's Inspectorate of Constabulary, and you should see what the Billingham family is doing, using Hanover directors and the likes.
That's right.
Loads and loads of Ponzi shells, loads and loads of family members in the trading network. I cannot know for sure that they are direct relatives of Zoe Billingham.
But it's an unusual name where you could ask in a freedom of information.
And there are 5 registrations, and some of them are involved in geopolitical manipulation. Some of them are just simply the Tottenham Legal Advice Centre, innocent looking outlets. But what I've learned about the Citizens Advice Centre up here is not innocent. And what I've learned about the heads of law enforcement up here and the judiciary being tax avoiders en masse. There's a man called Naismith who's an advisor on law to the Scottish Government, like John Lamont is, my local MSP, and him and a guy called Stuart Fair are massive launderers. And since I exposed that in an interview a couple of days ago with John, that guy Naismith has taken his e-contact details off the Law Society registry in Edinburgh. He's going to pay for that with the loss of business. But what is happening is completely immoral. The law courts are closing for lack of funds in rural areas, and they don't seem to understand that there is a lack of funds for public sector initiatives because they're avoiding tax by laundering it into havens with the full cover and condonement of the Scottish Government, Mr. Salmond.
Not just Mr. Salmond, what about David Cameron? He's in it.
Yeah, well, they're all in it. It's a criminal cabal, and every discussion we have explains how they're picked for power by coercion and compromising.
Power, they're groomed. They're groomed. David Cameron's a hedge fund family trader.
So that's 20 minutes now. Can we stop there and keep it short and snappy? But thank you for revealing. Yesterday, some of the Able Danger movement were thinking that Philip Hammond was going to lead a revolution against Her Majesty the Queen and of profiteering, and they brought in some Maori people from the South Pacific, and yesterday evening we discovered that the police commissioners who are condoning the asset stripping of the funding of British police are making them work 13-hour shifts on sporting events. It's very dangerous for them to drive home to their local region under those conditions. They are nervous wrecks, and their pension is being undermined by everything that we talk about. Yeah, thank you for your contribution and keeping it short and snappy, and I look forward to further sensational revelations in the near future. I'll get that online. You need to look at your Skype chat box and see the way that whether you approve of what I'm saying about our breaking news section of my webpage.
Alright, I'll have a look at it later.
Yeah. Okay, thanks Gordon.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.